Welcome to this Windows channel, and this is the Tech News Update. We are Wednesday, August the 31st, 2016, and today in our Tech News Update, we have Google login. A security researcher finds that there's flaws in the Google login pages, every type of login that you have from Google. Now, Google says it's not a problem and it's not going to fix it. Security researcher says, well, I'm not sure, it's not a problem, and any security flaws should be fixed. Google says that the reason why it's not a problem, according to them, is that in order to hack into that login, a user would have to be under the Google domain, which means kind of really very, very little chance that this could happen. But the security researcher says, you know what, this is a way of companies showing how they don't handle security correctly, and just shows that, instead of fixing a problem that could be fixed, they just leave it like that until maybe someday somebody will get a way to just hack into this, and finally this hacking will, of course, have effect. Well, it seems that the Nexus brand is gone. It is officially announced that there will be no more Nexus phones because the new phones will have the Google name instead. So instead of having Nexus brand phones, it really seems that Google, and we talked about that a few weeks ago, that the Google name would be used on their phones in the future. So when is the next or the first Google branded phone to arrive? It's going to be interesting to see. Well, MSN China is sold. It seems that Microsoft sold MSN China, and that right now, because maybe of the antitrust cases that China is actually building against Microsoft, Baidu is now the official start page in the browsers and also in the search for Windows 10. So interesting turn of events here. We don't know how much Microsoft got for MSN China, but one thing was sure is that they wanted to close this last spring, so it's interesting to see what's happening here. Well, a little more details on the Dropbox hack. I was telling you at the beginning of the week, if you have a Dropbox account, especially if you've been on Dropbox for several years, it's time to change your password. And we now know a little more. It seems that Dropbox got hacked somewhere in 2012, and 68 million user accounts and passwords were stolen. Now, Dropbox says, yes, it is true that what they've seen contains a lot of user accounts. But one of the things that they've noticed is that, first of all, when it was stolen, the passwords were hashed. That means they're kind of encrypted somehow. And that they haven't seen anybody get hacked because of this flaw. And that they're really just taking precautions in asking everyone to simply change their passwords. So a little more on the story here, and it goes back a long time, 4 years ago. Well, a researcher that is looking into big corporations and taxes they pay in countries is kind of asking the question, are tech giants like Microsoft, Google, Apple, Facebook, and so on paying their taxes? He says when we look at how they pay taxes, because they do mention they pay taxes, but the thing is, when they look at how things are happening in different countries around the world, and in Canada, United States, the UK, and so on, he says there are just so many deals with different governments that actually the amount of taxes paid versus what they should pay for real is very different. And he says companies need to actually be better citizens and paying their taxes like everybody else. So that's interesting, but it's not new. We know of a lot of companies, big companies and corporations that have all sorts of ways of doing some tax evasion, including putting money abroad. And governments, and I think this is the major issue here, is that the companies use what they can to avoid paying taxes. And the problem might not be that much about the companies. The problem might be just why aren't the governments doing tougher laws that prevent tax evasion? Well, these are carbon nanotubes, and Fujitsu is testing DRAM made of carbon nanotubes. It's apparently 1,000 times faster than the actual RAM in computers right now. So this is really interesting. Also, what they seem to notice is that they virtually last forever. So apparently this could come in the next year or two to the market, and we would be having new RAM and DRAM modules now made of carbon nanotubes instead of silicon. That is pretty interesting. And with the speeds of 1,000 times faster than actual RAM right now, maybe that's what's going to make really, really amazingly fast devices in the future. Is the Tor network so anonymous, or is it just a smokescreen? And the reason is a recent study has shown that by looking at Tor servers, they've noticed that there are more than 100 poison nodes. What that means, people or companies or governments are adding servers to the Tor network that actually have an input and output where they can decrypt what's happening. Now, that means that even if you're in the Tor encrypted network, when your traffic goes through these nodes, some agencies can actually decrypt what's happening and where you're coming from and where you're going. So that researcher says there's some kind of flaw here that Tor network needs to actually fix. Tor network, or the makers of the network, replied to this and said, okay, yeah, it is possible that government agencies do that, but with all the Tor networks and nodes that are available right now on the web, he says the chances that you'll go through one of these is very, very low, and you're pretty much anonymous still today, even though, yes, they do agree that some poison nodes might be on the server or on the service. So it's kind of interesting, and it's an ongoing war of us, the user, wanting to have privacy and encryption, and the governments that just want to see everything we do. So this was the tech news update for Wednesday, August 31st, 2016. We are Wednesday. If you enjoy our videos, please subscribe to our channel. You'll be informed when new videos are online. Give us thumbs up. And thank you so much for following us on this channel.